So I'm with Nicole Alcantara, owner of Alcantara and Good Real Estate Agency here on the Costa del Sol. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, good morning.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and your agency.
So I call it an agency, but I'm actually just an independent self-employed agent. So I'm what you'd call one of these free agents that I am a buyer side agent. So what that typically means is whether I have the listing myself or I have to collaborate with another agency or an agent to get it, I hold your hand from start to finish. So I'm self-employed, which means I look after me, I look after my clients. My car is my office. People go, "Oh, do you have an office?" I'm like, "Yes, you're in it."
What area do you cover?
So I cover everything from Gibraltar up to Marbella. And the reason I stop at Marbella is that there's no point me going further. It's just so far. Like you have to be an expert in an area. And for me, it's my neck of the woods. So my dad's side of the family from Gibraltar. Um, I live in Gibraltar myself, and I have been coming here for the 36 years of my life. I'm in my parents' farmhouse in Tesorillo. So this is my area. I grew up here. I grew up going out with my best friend in Puerto Banús when we were younger. You know, for me, it's home. So as much as real estate is what people come here for, I actually just sell the area. I can tell you the difference, from someone who wants to come here and get a holiday home that's relaxing, or someone who wants to get a holiday home that's going to be party. I can actually tell you, well, no, that's not the right area for you, or this is, you might have you considered here instead, or you say you want these views. Have you thought that this area might be different, and they might not necessarily know it. So that's what I bring to the party. I am una mezcla, a mix of everything. So I was born in London. We moved to Madrid when I was 2. I spent years in Madrid. We then moved to Lisbon. We then moved to Paris. We moved back to Madrid again. And then I ended up back in the UK when I was 15. And since then, I've lived in all places in the UK, moved up to Scotland with my husband. And it came to 2020, COVID time, when I was sat there working remote, working from home, going in Glasgow, raining sideways. And I was like, how do I get back? How do I get back to the Costa del Sol? Like, what should I do? And I started going on LinkedIn, looking at jobs, and I found an advert for something that was like, do you know the area? Do you speak languages? Why don't you come and work in real estate? And I was like, click, because I'd always wanted to work in real estate. When I was 16, I'd said to my mum, I want to be a real estate agent. And she said, no, Nicole, real estate agents are people who went to university but weren't smart enough for a real job. So I went to university, got a real job. And yeah, then these years down the line, decided that actually I wanted to be closer to my family, wanted to be closer to everything. I knew everything about the area. What I needed to learn was the intricacies of each development, all the new builds. I needed to learn some of the more technical stuff. But the area to me it's like coming home. So I did that. I collaborated with an agency for a while, the typical you don't work for them, but you work for them. And then I've branched out on my own now, and I couldn't be happier.
And so you came in, you'd be wanting to come back from the UK for some time,
Mhm.
knowing similar story to mine, knowing that lifestyle's so good over here.
Oh, yes.
And so you must be able to understand how difficult it can be for others looking to make the move for the first time and never having lived here before.
Yeah, so it's different. It depends on what people want. So like if someone's looking to make the move and make it their permanent home, they really need to pick the right place for them. If they got a family, do they need to think about schools? Because each area has a real flavor to itself. But I highly advise coming back to the sun. I've got my in-laws here with me right now for 10 days, and they're just keep going, oh my God, the weather. Oh my God, the food. Oh my God, like this is your life. And I'm like, yes, this is a work day for me, guys. This is it could be worse. It could be worse.
So as a solo flyer, what would you say the biggest challenge for you is at the moment in real estate
As
here?
a solo flyer, probably the same as with agencies. Like there's no real difference between me being self-employed and an agency. It's just that I don't have a physical company or office. My car is the office. That's the only big difference. But the challenges are the same. So right now, the biggest challenge that we've got is stock. And it's not just like, oh, stock, it's just that stock at the right level. So you have a lot of demand in that 250 to 450 mark. And I've just got nothing to give them. Someone will come to me and they'll be like, look, Nicole, will you help me? I want a 2-bed, 2-bath, sea views, doesn't need much renovation. And I'm like, I had one a while ago, or I will search. I know when they come up and I'll keep an eye for you. But like, if you want it, you need to be ready. And there's a few things that you need to pre-prepare. If you're planning on coming and buying, get yourself ready. And that kind of means to me is, do you need financing? Do you not need financing? Come here and be like, okay, I'm a cash buyer, I don't need financing. Or if you do need financing, speak to a broker. I can help you with that. That's part of what I do, is I'll help you with all of that. But the second thing is, know that it might not be quick. What you're looking for, lots of other people are looking for, and stock will always be a bit of an issue. Sometimes if things aren't priced right, they'll be on the market for a long time, and people go, oh, but I've seen that there are things on the market for a long time. And I'm like, that's because they're not priced right. Sometimes the owner's going, no, I want more for it, so I'm willing to wait. And I'm like, okay, you wait. And you'll wait and you'll wait. And then people will go, oh, it's not sold for a reason. And actually all it was is that they didn't listen to their real estate agent in the first place to say, actually, maybe you should have priced it 25K lower to begin with. You would have got more nibbles, and so on and so forth.
So I mean, you've been in the coast for a long time, on and off. In the real estate industry, been 3 years. Is that right? Is that about right?
Yeah, 3 and a
Okay.
bit, going on 4.
So it's not a long time, but in that short period of time, have you seen any changes or trends within the nationalities of the different buyers coming to the
Oh
coast?
yeah. So I think everyone on this show, if you ask them that question, will go, oh, all the Scandies, the Northern Europeans, the French speakers, the Belgians, they've been coming here that's been a long-term trend. But what I've really noticed in the last 6 to 12 months is a real influx from North America. So you're talking about USA and Canada. And I actually wrote a blog about this not too long ago, because I found my reason for this is that there's a direct flight from Malaga to New York. And there's also a direct flight to Montreal, which is close to Toronto. So you've got a lot of people from Toronto who are driving to Montreal and then jumping on a flight here. So it's made that interconnectivity a lot closer. So some of my last sales have been Canadians, and they keep calling me being like, oh, I'm looking to move over. And I'm like, I understand. Like, I don't blame you for getting away from the Canadian winters. Like, it's tough out there, guys. Have you considered 22 degrees and sunny in wintertime?
How does tech come into the situation with selling, particularly to North Americans, given the distance?
While I agree video is a great tool, and it kind of boomed during COVID because people couldn't physically get here, it will never replace you physically seeing a house. Like, I can do a virtual tour with someone and they'll be like, oh, Sea View doesn't look great. It does not do, like, what you see on camera is not what you see in real life. So I don't think that can ever replace the experience of them flying out here. And I always say to my clients, are you coming out? And if you're not, fine, I'm happy to help work through, narrow down your selections, find out, just get that real flavor of what they want, because that's what I do. Because I'm holding their hand throughout the whole thing. I need to just find what they're looking for. Otherwise, I don't get paid. I only get paid if they buy. So like, there's no ongoing salary for me. It's, I only get paid if they buy with me. So I need to find what they're looking for. And there's no point me doing hours and hours and hours and hours of searches and virtual tours if they're not physically going to come. A buyer will come. A buyer will physically be there if they want to buy. Like, I've got a client who's literally gone, I'm jumping on a flight next week. You've shown me things I like. I don't want to miss them. I'm going to come. Perfect. And if they don't tell me they've not got dates booked in the diary, if they're not sure, I'm like, okay, look, we'll do things from a distance, but I'm not going to put hours of work into something when they're not physically going to be here.
So you
People,
have to some
the
commitments.
occasional person might buy from a remote viewing, but you're more likely to do that if it's off plan. But people can't, if you haven't physically, there's something tangible. People love something tangible. That's why show houses perform so well. The developments that have a good show house sell much better than ones that have just a little box and a couple of pieces of paper. Like, if you can, these are the kitchens, these are the finishings, this is the quality. Your lounge, this room is 40 square meters. Your kitchen and lounge area will be 45, and they can see that, and they go, I can see what that will feel like. It might not be ready until 2027, but I can feel what it's going to be like. So tangibility, tech is great. I was actually thinking you might go, oh, tech, how does AI and that kind of thing help? Because for me, AI is brilliant. AI is great. Actually, I've actually found in the last few months my translation. So I use a lot of translations every day because I speak English, hablo español, et je parle français. So I can do all three, but I can't speak German. But I've got a client right now that I'm back and forth on Google Translate. We've been like this for a couple of weeks, back and forth, perfectly clear. Google Translate's great, but do you know what's better than Google Translate? ChatGPT translations. So much slicker. They're just a little bit more human. Whereas I find that Google Translate is just a little bit more like literal.
What would you say are the biggest misconceptions that buyers have, or maybe that you had coming into industry?
The biggest misconceptions, and I think this is the worst, is that they make it think that it's complicated. Buying property, they go, oh, buying is going to be so complicated, it's going to be so hard and difficult and stressful. I'm like, actually, it's really not. That's the biggest misconception, that
Right.
that buying a property abroad is going to be laden with burden. It can be. There are occasions where there are complications, but most of the time it is simple. As long as you have your financing in place, as long as you have an NIE number, which is the Número de Identificación de Extranjeros, which is one legal document that your lawyer will do. It's 60 euros. It doesn't cost much. And they'll do that as a part of your conveyancing. And as long as you have a lawyer, and I cannot stress this hard enough, don't try and scrimp on the lawyer. Just find a good one. Don't scrimp on it. Get a lawyer. If you have that trifecta of things, it's really simple. It's really straightforward.
A good agent, a good lawyer, and get your finance in place in advance.
It is not more complicated than that. And actually, when I say a good agent, the person who you partner with, obviously, hopefully me, will be the person who talks you through this and makes sure it's clear from the beginning. If you've not done that, then you've not done a good job.
Where do you think the real estate industry is going in the next few years?
Where's the real estate industry going? Like, I know people have been banding around talking a lot about branded residences. I think it's a fad. I'm not so sure on this. Anything trendy will live and die by its trend. As we know, fashion is fickle. I don't think that they're going to disappear. I think they should be a little bit more limited, and I find them a little bit naff sometimes. But I think the biggest thing that might change our industry is regulation. I'm actually an advocate of it, provided it's done correctly. Because for people like me, the small fish, the ones who don't have a big agency with huge marketing budgets behind them to train people up and stuff, I actually find that if they put in regulation, typically it favors the big companies. And unfortunately, I think you'll lose in that sense of trying to regulate things. You'll lose some of the people like me who have a passion for the area, because you can't train that. So a whole point of regulation is you do education on it. You make sure everything's clear and transparent. You make sure things are done well. You might be able to teach about how to get your NIE number and the process, but you will never be able to teach knowledge of the area properly. You can only get that from being a local.
Right.
So
right. Okay,
you might
so
get
yes,
an like, I've got my diploma, I've done this, I know how to send these emails, but I'm like, but do you know the difference between someone buying in La Duquesa and someone buying in Soto Grande? Like, do you? Can you really tell them which school's going to be best for their kids? Can you tell them what vibe they're going to be around? You can't train that.
And so regulation wouldn't address that. It would address other things. Is that right?
Regulation, I think that if you wanted to tighten up the market a bit, you could regulate, but you would need to make sure that it didn't cut out the good quality agents who are not part of an agency.
So what would that look like?
Code of conduct would be good. I think it's just a framework of it. So a bit like, here's a set of knowledge that is everyone should have and understand.
I mean, I guess they've just launched something this year in the Costa Blanca. There are some things I understand that relate to having an office and stuff like that. And that's what you mean, isn't it?
Yeah,
is that
that's what I think.
Not to have things that will
why do you need an
alienate.
office?
Yeah. Understood.
All of my clients are online and they're coming in anyway. It's not like they're walking past a shop. I think that's the biggest waste. Actually, you could free up more people to put more money into developing the real estate business here on the Costa del Sol if you said to people you did not need to have an office. Like, an office in my day is so dated. It's a dinosaur. Like, who has an office nowadays? I used to work for Amazon, and so they didn't have any physical stores. So for me, the concept of a physical office, my parents who are yacht brokers, they don't have a physical store either. Their office is their car, because they're selling boats. They're on the boats. They're people on boats. I'm in a coffee shop. Like this afternoon, I'm going to some viewings with clients. I'm going to pick them up in my car. And then I'm going to take them to see the viewings, and then we'll sit and we'll have a coffee afterwards. Why would I need to drive them to my one location that's going to be in the somewhere over there in the middle of nowhere? Why would people do that? And people don't walk past them and go, oh, I'm suddenly going to buy a house. That's a genius idea. You don't. You shop online. So why would we need to have an office?
What do you find that your buyers are most surprised about how the buying process is in Spain compared to the home countries? Is there something that stands out?
I think the biggest difference is actually the search part. So in the UK, and I can only speak for I've bought in the UK, Scotland, Spain, and Gibraltar. Those are the only places I've ever transacted my own properties. In the UK, you go online, you find a property, they show you that one property, and they go, do you want it? Do you not want it? And they let you do the search. You have to be the search part. You find it for yourself. And they don't collaborate. They don't go, oh, by the way, actually, I know there's a really nice property around the corner from here. Let me share. Whereas here, I think people are actually surprised. They'll be like, oh, wow, actually, hang on, you're coming to pick me up and you're going to take me to see 3 places together. Wow, that's actually a really nice thing to do. And I think it's to do with the culture of a buyer's agent versus you just doing your own shopping, and also a little bit to do with the type of buyers that we get. We're getting a lot of people who are coming here for a holiday home. They don't actually live here, so they don't know the way around. Whereas a lot of people who are buying in the UK are not buying as an investment. They're buying for their main residence, and therefore it changes the how you buy.
And quite often they're buying in the same area that they already live in, so they know it quite well.
They know the area quite well. They're just waiting for the right thing to pop up. One of the nicest things about the Costa del Sol is that if you put your trust into one person, and that's my advice always, I say to people, pick one agent. If it's not me, fine. Look, I'm busy. I'm busy enough as it is. If you want to shop around with lots of agents, I can't help you. And it's part of what I do is I actually turn down some clients who I know are shopping around with lots and lots of agents, because I'm like, there's no point. I don't need to compete with them in that way. Pick one. That's my advice. And a lot of the time they'll come back to me going, do you know what? Actually, like, your transparency has been really helpful to me. And I will always go, great, go pick. If you like them, if you've got a better affinity with them, if they can speak your language, like I said, if you found a Swedish agent who speaks Swedish and you are Swedish, by all means. That's one of the reasons I pick up a lot of French clients, is that I can speak their language. So they feel comfortable with the fact that I can help them.
Right, I understand. And so you operate on the west of Marbella, the western Costa del Sol, I guess we could say. What's the hot area right now there?
My top tip in terms of where to buy. So people will always say Estepona. I love Estepona. It's great. But actually, I would branch that out. Within 10 minutes drive of Estepona, you still have some really great options that are not kind of as inflated in price. There are still developments, new ones, where you can get something off plan and really see, you capitalize on the investment there. But places like Manilva, Sabinillas, like, I've seen them go from these meh kind of towns to now the seafront is beautiful. The restaurants are lovely. It's a market there every week. I'm like, wow, this has really changed. And it is such good value compared to other areas. If you go up to the new Golden Mile, there's some new developments being like, oh, would you like a penthouse for 3 million? And I'm like, yes, I would love one, but I don't have 3 million to spend on a penthouse. Whereas in Sabinillas, you can get a 3-bedroom, brand new apartment for 300,000-400,000. That's incredible. Like, that same property in the center of Estepona would cost you another 500K nowadays. So like, I would say Manilva, Casares Costa, Sabinillas is having a little bit of a revival. And it's where you've got that, there's not all that many new things. So a lot of them need refurbs, like secondhand properties, but you can get a really good bargain. And the beachfront has gone through a lot of transformation. There has been a lot of Belgians go in, and they are good people. They've opened really nice restaurants. They've really, let's call it, gentrified the area.
What advice would you have for anybody who is looking to do the same thing and set up their own agency here on the coast?
Just do it. I
Just do it.
highly advise that if people want to get into an industry and you have a passion for it, there's only a few things that really set you apart, which is your knowledge of the area. Make sure you're at least an expert on a niche or something. Make sure that you have some knowledge that is valuable to them. If you just want to be an agent because you think you're going to make a lot of money, that's great, but you need to bring something to the party.
So what sets you apart then, just summing up then, is that you you spent a lot of time, a lot of years in the coast, so you are from the coast. You know the area well. You speak three languages. It sounds like you really like what you do,
Yep.
and that I think that sets you apart from perhaps a lot of others that are just looking for a paycheck. Does that
Yeah,
sound about right?
that sounds about right. People buy from people, and I, yeah, I will be their person to find what they want.
Nicole, well, thank you so much for your time, and it's super interesting to talk to somebody from a slightly different perspective.
You're very welcome. Thanks.